All right, I am jumping into this too tall Toby exercise. Honestly, not in Creo today, but in Onshape. And this is going to be a great opportunity to talk about how to do some assemblies, how to do multi body modeling in Part Studios, which makes this really nice. But then there's some trade offs depending on how you want to create this. So there's some interesting stuff to do here. I haven't done this before, but I'm looking forward to jumping in and giving it a try. Okay. All right, so we've got an upper and lower base made out of ABS, and we've got these three wooden rods made out of red oak. Nice little section view here. Um, it looks like the top and the bottom parts are mirrors of each other, but with a chamfer on the top. So maybe a plane in the middle there. Um, and so depending on the end use with these three wooden rods, because they are identical, depending if you want to have a bill of materials that looks like this, then I would create all three of the separate parts in a single part studio, but then I would assemble them so I could place this part three times, and that'll help make my bill of materials really nice. If I was working if I didn't care about the bill of materials, I might make the three parts um, all extruded and then use it as a remove material, a Boolean cut of the green base part, and not worry about the bill of materials and just model three separate parts. They would show up in the bill of materials three separate times. So depending on the end use, there are definitely different approaches that you can take to a part like this. Um, I really like the idea of the Boolean, having the holes made to fit the rods. But again, I really like having an updated bill of materials. I would love Onshape to have an option where we can identify identical parts and consolidate them in the bill of materials. So Onshape, please consider that. Um, all right. So I think what we'll do is we'll make one part and we'll have a mid plane, and on the mid plane we'll sketch the rods, we'll make the holes, um, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm going to start with the base part on the top plane, and I'm noticing I'd like to expand this out a little bit, so we're going to go all right, so we've got a bit of a straight part. All right, so that was the out and in trick to switch from a line to a tangent arc. Great trick, love it. All right, so let's see here. Okay, horizontal, vertical, tangent. Let's make those two lines tangent. Um, all right, let's get some dimensions on here. So each side is 155. Um, you know what? I'm realizing. Oh wait, we are in millimeters. That's fine. This radius is 77.5, and this side is also 155. And we're going to add a hole. This hole at the bottom is 125. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Um, so let's extrude that. And it has a height of 50. Okay. Shift 7 is my default view. Okay, so now I'm going to create a plane I'm going to take this top plane and I'm going to make an offset, and I'm going to go the full height, 420. That's what I'm going to sketch the top, or actually, nope, 420 divided by 2. There we go. All right. So let's mirror the first part over the mirror plane. Okay. Let's create a sketch on this plane. And let's get those 3 holes added in there. So I have hole here, here, and here. They're all going to be a diameter of 22. So let's get these about where we want them. All right, I want those 2 parts to be vertical. All right, so we're going to grab vertical and click point and point. And then I want the other 2 parts to be horizontal. And then I'll use E for my equal sign to make all of these holes the same diameter. And we'll finish up with some dimensioning. So here to here, we're given that dimension is 18. Here to here, we're given that dimension is 18. And we could have done some of this with like construction lines to get some of the spacing to be the same, but I'm placing the dimensions as they are shown in the drawing here. Okay, so that is this sketch. And I'm going to use that sketch, and I'm going to extrude it. And I'm going to make remove materials. It's going to be symmetric. And let's see here, 12 to rods and holes. So the overall length here is going to be 420 minus 12 minus 12. Okay. And we're going to merge with all. So we're going to remove material from both the top and the bottom. So we absolutely could have gone down to the bottom and then mirrored it. But we'll do this. Okay. And then my sketch is still here. So let's take the back one and let's extrude that one as a new part. We're going to make it symmetric. And that is also going to be 420 minus 12 minus 12. Okay, making sure it's a new part. And there we go. Okay, so holes are 22, the rod's 22. Okay. So we're not quite there yet. Let's take and extrude from the first sketch. Let's take that center hole. We're going to extrude that up 15 as we see in the front view here. Okay, we're going to merge with part 1. That's good. Okay. And then up here on the top, we have a chamfer. Distance by angle, so 45 by 7. Okay. Just kind of checking to make sure I've got all these dimensions. I noticed that the top one is actually a height of 60, not 50. Good thing I checked. So let's use move face. And let's take this face and slide it down. Oh, 10. So instead of 50, we want that to be 60. Let's check. Yep. Okay. Anything else here? I think we've got most of the parts created. Let's make sure they're right. So part 1, we're going to edit. Let's rename that. Part 1 is our lower base. Okay. Part 1 has a material. Sometimes I have a Too Tall Toby material library edit here. I don't have it today. Let's see here. I do have a custom table, so I can figure out that the lower base is 1.4 kilograms. Actually, I think this is applying to the entire part. But for today, we'll just do ABS. Okay, and we'll set it to be green. The second part, we'll rename. We'll assign a material. And we'll, oh, it's green, good. The third part, we'll rename. And we'll assign a material. And we'll give it a color. We don't have great colors here. We'll pick something kind of brownish, maybe give it a little bit of a softer brown. There we go. Shift P will hide sketches and planes and all that fun stuff. Okay, so this, I think, looks pretty good. For the assembly, let's go to here. And let's insert. Okay, so again, I made the choice that I wanted, oh, here's all, see all the work I've been doing. For this part, I decided I wanted to keep a good bill of materials. So I wanted my bill of materials to have the quantity for each of the parts. So I needed to do that by having individual parts. I brought them all in together and I can group them. They're fine the way they are. So we'll grab all those parts and we'll group them. We'll take the base and we'll fix that. Okay. And then the wooden rod, let's try replicate. Okay. So match faces and parts. Oh, all right. So it's actually not letting me replicate it because there is no mate. So if I had assembled this into the bottom, I'd be able to replicate it. So I can show you that. Actually, let's do that. So let's ungroup the rod. We can leave the top and bottom where they're located, but we'll fasten the bottom of the rod into the hole. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then if I use replicate, instance is the wooden rod. It picks fasten. Match faces and part. We're going to pick this part. And there we go. All right. So our bill of materials here is going to update and show 3. Right? We've got the materials added. I'm not confident that my mass is going to be right because I don't have the Too Tall Toby masses here. I might have to go back and modify those a bit. But let's just check. If I pick all those parts, my mass I have here is 1638. Yeah, I think it's just the mass, but we can still try and fix those. I'm going to go change some of those masses in the part. Okay, so the lower base, edit material, the density here um, is higher than what we have. And for the wooden rod, um, we have, we have different densities. So um, we'll make an update to that particular. I'll post a update with the mass, but here's a good indication of how you would assemble things, right? You want to make sure you got a single part fixed. The upper base, I have grouped because I designed it in the right place. If you had made these as 3 separate parts and had to assemble them, it'd be pretty straightforward by mating one of the wooden rods, and then you could mate this part on top. If we had done it a different way, okay, back here, if instead of making the one extrude, I instead had created all 3 of them at the same time, okay, then I could have, if I still need it as an assembly, a great option might have been to use a rigid part studio, and then you can bring them all in together. Okay, we're going to place this over here. Okay, we'll show you the difference between a rigid part studio. So I brought it in just as the part studio. I brought in all 3 parts. So the lower base, upper base, and one wooden rod. As a rigid part studio, it shows up as one line. Right? All the parts are listed inside of there, and they are completely stuck together. I cannot move them independent from each other. And if I needed to, I do have the option to dissolve that rigid part studio. Okay. The thing I love about rigid part studios is if I went in here and I added a new part, right? Not added, but a totally separate, brand new part, part 6 in this case, right? There's a whole different part added into the part studio. When I go into rigid, it gets added in as well. So rigid part studio, super powerful tool in Onshape, and it really allows us to kind of treat that part studio almost like a subassembly. However, the trade-off is all of those items are going to show up as unique items in the bill of materials, even though my intention is that part 4 and part 5 are the same as the wooden rod. So there's definitely a trade-off, but something you should be considering as you're designing your parts for assembly. All right, thanks.